Boker Tov, Shavua Tov, Chodesh Tov, Chanukah Sameach. We now begin to analyze the Mishnah about Yovel. So today's daf is daf Samach Aleph, and we'll give an introduction a little bit about Yovel. Yovel, of course, is after the 7 series of 7 cycles of Shemitah, and the Torah says at the end of Sefer Vayikra, "V'safarta l'cha sheva shabsel shonim sheva pa'amim," and then we get to the year 50, the Jubilee year, which is Asur b'Meleches ha'aretz, and the Torah says, "V'kidashtem eshnas ha'chamishim shana Yovel hi shnas ha'chamishim shana tielachem lo tizro lo tiksaru lo esvi chaseh v'lo tivtzu es nizireh." And the Torah calls it Yovel because they blew the shofar, as it says, "V'avarta shofar trua b'chodesh hashvi v'asar l'chodesh b'yom ha'kippurim ta'aviru shofar b'chol artzachem." And the keren of the aisle from which we take the shofar is called the Yovel. And this happens at the end of every 7 series of 7 cycles of Shmitos. And now the Gemara has the following suffix. And this is Iboilahu. And we'll count down from the beginning of the Amud 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down. The Gemara vacillates about the following question. A person in the middle of Yovel, let's say, for example, it's the 24th year, the 25th year of Yovel, and he declares, Omar Yayin Shanitoim Yovel. Konam, I take upon myself a konam, an Isra Nov Yayin, for the period of Yovel, meaning until the end of Yovel, Mai. At what point does the konam terminate? How do we classify the 50th year? Shnas Chamishim Kilifnim Chamishim. Do we assume that the 50th year is included in his konam, and it's the last year of the Yovel, and therefore he'd be enjoined from drinking wine in the 50th year of Yovel? Oh, what's the other possibility? Kili achar chamishim. Shall we consider that the 50th year belongs to the next Shemitah, and it means that there are 49 years of Shemitah, and Yovel is the first year of the next cycle of 7 years, which means that following the Yovel, we would count 5 years and then sanctify the 6th year, which is actually the 7th year, because Yovel is the first year of the Shemitah. And according to this side of the Gemara, Yovel will be excluded from his neder, and with Yovel, when he's already into the next Shemitah, the next cycle, we'll call it the 8th cycle of Shemitah, he's already allowed to drink wine. And the Gemara now is going to explore the possibility that this issue in Konam, as to whether the 50th year is included in his neder or it's beyond his neder, really depends upon a previous machlokes tanoim. Toshma, the Sanya we learned in the Brisa Pluta, the Rabbi Yehuda Rabbanon, the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim about the status of the 50th year. And we begin with the sheet of the Chachamim. The Chachamim, when they read the pasuk, "Kidashtem es shnas hachamishim shana," and the Torah commands us to sanctify the 50th year as Yovel, and the Rabbanan interpret it thusly: Shnas hachamishim atamona. The Iatamona Shnas Chamishim V'achas. The 50th year is included in the counting, and therefore it belongs to the previous Yovel, the previous entity of 50 years. You do not count the Yovel as if it was year number 51, and it was the first year of the new Shemitah cycle. Nikan Amru Yovel Eino Ola Leminyan Shavua. Therefore, the Chachamim derived the principle that the Yovel year is not included in the 7-year cycle of the 8th round, meaning of the new Yovel and the first Shemitah of that new Yovel. So after the year of Yovel, according to the Chachamim, we will begin counting as usual a full 6 years, so that the 7th year is sanctified with Shvius. However, the Brisa quotes the dissenting view of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Yovel Ola Laminyan Shavua. The year of Yovel is counted as the first year of the new Shemitah. So that means after the year of Yovel, we're going to count an additional 5 years, and that will give us 6 years in this new Shemitah cycle post Yovel, and the 7th year will be sanctified as the first Shemitah cycle. And the Gemara now claims that the two possibilities that we raised, the suffix that we vacillated about in terms of a konom, when a person takes a konom of Yain Shanitoem Yovel, whether or not the 50th year of Yovel is included in the Neder or it's beyond the Neder, that depends upon this machlokas. According to the Chachamim, who classify the Yovel year as the last of the years belonging to the previous Shemitah cycle, and the Yovel year is not counted as the first of the new Shemitah cycle, therefore his Neder extends and includes even the Yovel. Whereas according to Rabbi Yehuda, since the Yovel belongs to the new Shemitah year, then the Yovel is not part of the 50th year is not part of his neder, and therefore, when we finish the 49 years and the 7 cycles of 7 Shmitos, and we reach year number 50, he's already permitted to drink wine. The Achronim are bothered here because it could be possible that even according to Rabbi Yehuda's Shita, there's room for a suffix, for a doubt. Because on the one hand, the 50th year, according to Rabbi Yehuda, is counted as the first of the new cycle of Shemitah, but nevertheless, it is also the 50th Yovel after the 49 years that passed before it. So we still have room to raise the possibility, even within the context of Rabbi Yehuda, that since the Yovel is the end of the 7 cycles, and it's the 50th year, maybe therefore it should and could be included in his neder. In any event, we go on in the Brisa, Omru lo, the Chachamim argue against Rabbi Yehuda. How are you going to interpret the pasuk? Hareu Omer, in the Parsha Shemitah, the Torah says, Sheish shonim tizras hadecha. There are 6 years in every Shemitah cycle in which you're allowed to do Zriya. And we're assuming that this pasuk should apply even in the last Shemitah cycle going into Yovel. And if we apply it in the last Shemitah cycle, then according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's impossible to have 6 years of heter. Ein kan elo chamesh. You'll only end up with 5. Because according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Yovel year is the first year of the new Shemitah cycle, and you'll only have an additional 5 years of Heter Zriya. Whereas according to Rachamim, it works out beautifully, because according to Rachamim, the Yovel year belongs to the previous entity of 50 years, and we'll have another 6 years past Yovel, until the 7th year will become Shemitah, and this pasuk will apply beautifully that you have 6 years of Heter Zriya. Amar lahem, Rabbi Yehuda responds, L'divrechem. There's a problem even according to your premise. Your premise is that we should interpret that pasuk giving us 6 years of Heter Zriya even in the last Shemitah of the Yovel cycle going into Yovel. Hareu Omer, in the Parsha it says, and I'll read through the entire section here that's relevant to us. If we won't plant through the 7th year, what are we going to eat? in the seventh year. Hey, lo nizram lo nesaf is through asenu. We haven't planted, we cannot harvest. And Hashem's response to that argument is, I will bestow a tremendous blessing miraculously on the sixth year. There will be a growth, a bumper crop, like the 7 paros, the fat cows, that in the sixth year, there'll be enough produce to last for 3 full years. Now, according to the Chachamim, this is very difficult, because let's assume we're talking about the last Shemitah of the 7 Shemitah cycles going into Yovel. Hare Kan Arba. We're going to really need 4 years of produce in the 6th year. Why? Because we need produce in the 6th year for the 6th year. We need it for the 7th year with the Shemitah. We need it for the 8th year, which is Yovel, spilling over into the next year. So we have all told 4 years that we need from the Erev Shemitah year, meaning the 6th year, taking us all the way until the 1st year in the Shemitah cycle. So that this pasuk of the Asas Hatvua Shol Shanim doesn't work out according to the Chachamim in that last Shemitah cycle. And let's go over it one more time. According to the Shita of the Chachamim, the year of Shemitah obviously is Asur, Bizriya, and Basifa. And then the year after Shemitah, which is year number 50 in the last Shemitah of the 7 cycles, is also enjoined from Zriya. And you haven't even entered into the next Shemitah cycle. So the first opportunity you're going to have to plant and harvest is going to be in year number 51. So what that means is that I need in year number 49 to produce not only for 49, but also for 50, in order to have produce to survive in the 50th year. And now we haven't even begun the Shemitah cycle. So we still have another year in which we need produce in the first year of the next Shemitah cycle in order to survive that year. So we need that the 6th produce for the 6th, for the 7th, for the 8th, and 1 more year for the 9th. That's 4 years. So from the Erev Shemitah year, we need Shana Shishis, Shana Shvius, which is Shemitah, the Shnas HaYovel, and we're not planting their Yovel, and the year after Yovel is all told 4 years. It works out, on the other hand, beautifully according to Rabbi Yehuda. But the Gemara says that once the Rabbanan are cornered in the, with their back against the wall, to Ikalukum the Sharshnesh, we're going to have to assume that the pasuk that says V'yasa Satvu Shal Shanim is referring to the majority of Shemitah cycles, 6 out of 7. And therefore, I go back to the pasuk of Sheish Shanim Tizra Sadecha, which gives me a heter of Zriya for 6 years, the Li Nami, my pasuk, which means the pasuk that you, the Chachamim, presented as problematic, we're going to interpret as referring to 6 out of the 7 Shemitah cycles. And that's the end of this sugya. Now the Mishnah told us that if he takes a neder ad ha-Pesach, then according to Rabbi Meir, he's also up until before Pesach. And Rabbi Yehuda, meaning the beginning of Pesach, Tesvav b'Nisan. According to Rabbi Yossi, on the other hand, when he says ad ha-Pesach, he means ad v'ad b'chlal, and he includes all of Pesach. So he will only be mutter, the neder will only terminate, according to Rabbi Yossi, at the end of the Chag HaPesach. And the Gemara is going to make the following premise. Rabbi Meir understands very well that when he took a neder out of Pesach, we don't know whether he meant up until the beginning of Pesach or throughout the entire Chag of Pesach. Even Rabbi Meir agrees and validates the possibility and that interpretation that all of Pesach is included in the neder. However, Rabbi Meir assumes that a person doesn't take a neder in a suffix situation. And that's what the Gemara says here at the end of Samach Aleph. Lememra, shall we assume, the Rabbi Meir Sover, lo ma'ayel inish nafshe, and here on the top of Samach Aleph of the base, l'sfeika. A person does not put himself into a suffix, in which case he would take upon himself an obligation which is ambiguous. Because again, as we say, we don't know whether he meant ad l'fnei Pesach until before the Pesach, or ad the ad b'chlal, including all of Pesach. So we don't know whether the Pesach itself is included in his neder. And therefore the Gemara assumes that according to Rabbi Meir, it's going to only be that which is vadai. The period of time leading up to Pesach, but not entering into Pesach, is certainly beyond the shadow of a doubt included in his neder. So his neder undoubtedly, b'vada'ut, takes him all the way till the night of Pesach. And when a person takes a neder, which could be interpreted in two ways, we interpret it in that way which is definite and not that way which is suffix. So leave out the suffix, and Rabbi Meir would hold there's no Isa neder during the course of Pesach because that's only a suffix.